This is the segment. This is the segment to explain the roles and responsibilities of EXCO members. So before moving to the next segment, let me remind again, you may want to have your pen or pencil with you and get ready to take the notes. At the end of this event, we have a Q&A session. To contacting the next segment on club officers' roles and responsibilities, we have a veteran and powerful speaker to us to tell about the roles and responsibilities. This trainer is a former club president and area director who strongly believes in the philosophy of championing the member experience. Having raised the club to a position of the top 20 in the world for awards, he recognizes this award would not happen without the collective dedication of his EXCO team. This is why he is passionate on sharing the club roles and responsibilities of the EXCO team today. Let's put our hand together to welcome distinguished Toastmaster James Clifton. James, over to you.
Thank you so much, Tanika. Hello, everyone. A very good afternoon. I hope you all are feeling good. You just had your break. It's time to relax. Don't worry, mine is not a snooze fest, but you can snooze. Because what I'm going to share or what I planned to share earlier, you can find in Google. But I thought, what's the point, right? If I'm just going to show you something that's in Google. So I'm going to be sharing a little bit about my personal experiences, not just as a club president, but as a member and a member of the division council as well. And I hope it can be useful. Now, if there's any moment in time that you feel you disagree with what I have to say, feel free to share. Because again, like what each and every one of my predecessing trainers have said, this is a sharing session. This is a session where we learn together. Because without a team, we will never be as successful as we are now in Division G. All right, so I'm going to be sharing my screen now. My host, you need to enable me to share. It's disabled for a moment. Well, anyway, while we're waiting, we know that every officer in Toastmasters Club have a duty to fulfill, right? We got to support our members. And that is the key consideration we always have, and it takes us a lot of hard work. We've got to spread that load. And that is why there are 7 of us. 7 of us to make things go. But that is not just what we do, you see. It means we are responsible to see that when a job gets done, it's done by a team of collectively minded people. Despite our individuality, we need to find a way to work together to harness whatever we learn and to move forward. So I'm going to share my screen now. There we go. I hope you can see my screen. Is everything all right? Can you see? Yes, awesome. Okay, so let's begin. Now, you know who I am. My name is Clifton. I am from Division G and Nee Soon East Toastmasters Club, the King of the North. So why am I sharing this today? Well, apart from the requirements of COT, it's really about us coming together to find ways where we can build a cohesive system that is sustainable in the long term. And that is our plan at Division G. So let's begin. Let's talk about the purpose and roles that we have in our clubs. Why do we need it? As you can see, our club and any other club is different, even though we are supposed to do the same things. It's about the collective efforts that we have. And since every member and even each club works differently, has a different culture, we need to find ways where we harness our collective energy to work together to bring us forward. Like what Dex, Eric, and Vicky said, it's about our club. How do we move it forward? And what can we do? So my part is going to be a short summary, in effect, of the collective things that we can do. So we are here, we are going to move forward, and I hope each and every club can say, we are heading for the distinguished club status. But before that, is it our goal to get DCP? It's an interesting question because many of us at one time or another said, I'm going to join the Exco, or I'm going to join the area and division, and I'm going to make sure my club gets that DCP. And we're very proud of that. And we want to make sure that we do that. However, take a look at this. You see, winners and losers, whether you win or you lose, we all have the same goals. We want to move forward, we want to achieve something. But the difference is the winners have a better system. Now, this was written by James Clear, the person who wrote Atomic Habits. It's a book I just started reading last week. And I found it very interesting. You see, not every one of us is a genius. Not every one of us has the potential to just think and implement and succeed. Most of us need to put in some hard work. And that hard work today, what I'm going to talk about is the systems we put in place to ensure that we reach our goals. You see, the target, once we have that system in place, whatever goals we aim for will become a byproduct. It is a natural order of things. So let's start with our first person. I consider this person the most important person. All right, the sergeant at arms. Now, traditionally, before pre-COVID, this was the key jobs that our sergeant of arms had to do. How many of you can see this? You can chat with me if you wish. How many of you can see this, and you totally agree? Yeah, last time it was so much easier, wasn't it? Go be the first to enter the room. Make sure the room aircon, everything is working well. Projector, good. The tools, the gavel, everything is ready. Fabulous. Is the food enough? Should I get some more food? Where are my ribbons? Where are my forms? And that was the sergeant at arms. He was the one in charge of the room. But you would notice, right, now with the Zoom factor, things have started to change. We start looking at how we want to move forward. Now it's about how do we control our online platform? What are we going to do? Oh, sorry, I have to admit someone here. Okay, so what are we going to do when we are the SAA without any particular physical SAA roles? See, the traditional role of SAA has changed, and probably it'll be the same for the next one. I don't know. I hope it's about a year, but looking at how things go, perhaps 2 to 3, maybe even 4 years. So what do we do? Number one, we have to start re-educating ourselves. We have to start moving forward with how we want to be productive and useful to the club in our role of the Exco. Because don't forget, you still get your points as long as you have a full team and you still can earn all the awards that you want to earn. So what do you do? Whether it's Zoom platform, whether it's Google Meets or a Hangout, our role has changed. We need to upskill ourselves. Now, when I say ourselves, it's not just us learning these skills. It's about getting a team ready, getting a team to be equipped to do this. Not all of us are tech savvy. Not all of us are born intuitive into going into the virtual platforms. Instead, we start taking things step by step. We learn from our mentors. In our case over here, who are our mentors? Make a guess. Write it down in the chat. Who are your mentors here in Toastmasters? Let's talk about the roles, not so much the names. Wow, interesting. We have the president. Eric has said it is Wiki. Well, if Wiki would leave us his phone number, that would be fabulous. Anytime we have a problem, we'll just give Wiki a call. I'm sure Wiki would mind. He is our Panadol, not aspirin. Right, evaluators, past club officers, Gerald Young, Eric. There are so many. Now, I'm a little bit disappointed, You know why? How about our area directors? Our poor area directors, who work so hard, want our clubs. Okay, we'll cancel that name mentioned by Margaret Lowe. Not important, that one. All right. We need our area directors. That is why they are there. Yet, instinctively, intuitively, the first people we think of is the rest, which is great. But there are designated people meant to help us who have vested interest in wanting us to succeed. Because if you do well, they do well. They're like Maybelline, huh? Or is it Vidal Sassoon? I think it's Vidal Sassoon. If you don't look good, we don't look good. So that's the tagline here. So for us to look good, you guys need to look good. So we have the vested interest as area directors, as the division council. So while you can go towards anyone you know, remember that the area directors are there to support you as well. So go have a system in how you want to bring forward a club meeting that runs smoothly. Now, one thing I've always learned, if you want something to run smoothly, it's not to do it yourself. Because when we start doing things, when we start doing too much of the nitty-gritty, we forget the big picture. And my dear friends of the EXCO, we are supposed to be looking at the big picture, not just the small picture. The small picture may be who has done their training, who has done their pathways. But our role is to ensure that we have our numbers, we have our people to run the club. Without us, will the club survive? It should, because the system lives forever. Our ideas may change, but having a general system makes sure that it's easier for everyone to move forward. In that sense, inter-member communication, you know, whenever we talk about inter-member communication, I'm not just talking about the Zoom chats. No, what happens offline? Are we generating energy for our members? You see, it is not just the role of the VPM to make sure that the members are engaged. It is the role of the SAA and every other EXCO member as well. We want to feel like a family. It's not easy to feel like what is that word? You see, I forgot. Never mind. It's not important that it's not important for us to move forward thinking that we are working alone. We are not silos. We work as a unit. And every unit is in charge of certain things. You, my dear SAA, you are the king of the president's logistic team. It's not just about the software, it's about the hardware as well. For the past 1.5 years, for the past 2 years, are you aware of what is happening to your club stores? Are you planning to go in after 1 to 2 years to see a solid mess of rotting, disgusting Toastmaster ribbons and items, all disintegrating as they touch your hands? When was the last time you had a handover session with your previous EXCO members? Our role as EXCO members and Sergeant at Arms especially, most important is because our logistics unfortunately got physical items as well. So having a system in place, having dates in each moment to say, okay, at this particular date, these are the things we need to do. For every meeting, is our online platform ready? See, that's where we start working with our VPE and every other person within our EXCO team. My suggestion, Sergeant at Arms is not as easy as it seems. So ensure that you have a small team. At Nisun East, what we did was everyone had an understudy, a shadow master, so to speak, where they would be able to support the main EXCO member so that there will be a sense of sharing. Now, why sharing? When we think on our own, our views are very one-sided. We think we are right because why? There's no one better than us to come up with the ideas. However, when we start having a partner to discuss with us, there is a sense of a soundboard, and that is so important. No one is perfect, but everyone can get better with practice. So having that soundboard helps us to move forward. It is not just the EXCO team here. Take someone on board, be a mentor. It does not matter if you have just joined Toastmasters recently, less than 6 months, a year. Some of us have been doing
Here's the
this for
washroom.
I heard some.
Sorry, James, can you unmute
James,
yourself? We
James,
muted
you're muted.
everyone.
You're muted, James.
We muted everyone
Okay,
for
sure,
the
no worries.
benefit.
Thank you. So anyway, thank you. If you need to go to the washroom, we're all adults, so please go ahead. Yeah, you don't need to inform us. We trust you, okay? And we don't need to see anything, so please do not bring your devices to the washroom as well. It happened once, huh? So not in a Toastmasters meeting, it was a work meeting. The ladies were pretty excited about it, and it wasn't me. So yeah. So let's move forward. So that is our role as Sergeant at Arms. Not only do we have to have a different mindset on what we are in charge of, we start taking control of the online platform. It is not the duty of the president to tell us what to do. I repeat, it is not the duty of the president to tell us what to do. It is us to inform the president, hey man, these things are in place. You good? And that is the important thing, because the president has a very important job, which I will share with you later. Now, if you have any questions regarding this, you may ask at the chat itself. I will try my best to toggle between the chat and the screen. Now, next, let's talk about the next person, the secretary, the master of the books. Now, I love this particular movie and I've loved this particular picture. No matter how funky it gets, the book is always meticulous. Why? You see, my dear secretary, you are in charge of communications. Every single piece of communications has to have gone through you, not the president, not the VPPR. You see, we are the master of the guidelines and we are acting for the president whenever there's any communication with TI, District 80, or any other platform. See, whether it is note-taking or whether it's providing support to the EXCO team, we are there to ensure that the guidelines, the constitution is being followed. If not, it becomes a cowboy town. Yet, I know there's a question. You see, if you will notice, right, the previous trainers before me, they had the Toastmaster logo somewhere prominently or even used the font. Yet for the club, even though we're talking about Toastmasters and we have the Toastmaster language, I didn't use that font. Our clubs are unique, very unique, but our language must be the same. So whichever form we plan to use to show off ourselves as the club of Toastmasters, we need to have that unique communication, whether you are a CC club, whether you're a corporate club, or any other religious organization or some other forms of club. We need to ensure that whatever we want to share has that same consistency throughout the club, following the guidelines. So it's very important, Mr. Secretary or Miss Secretary, Madam Secretary, that whatever we do, we should be the soundboard, we should be the devil's advocate, we should be the guardian of truth. Because any questions regarding this is supposed to come to the secretary and the team. So whenever the president is unsure of something, our role as secretaries is really to go to the president and say, look, these are the things that I've checked, and this is what we should be doing. What do you say? Because even if we make a mistake, even if we choose to do something different, it's okay, we make a choice. But we need to know what is the correct protocol, and that is important. You make the decision. If you're going to break protocol, there better be a good reason. And the reason should not be, oh, I didn't know. Because then, Madam Secretary, Mr. Secretary, we are looking at you. EXCO minutes. Now, how many clubs are planning to have EXCO meetings? Raise your hands. There's a reason why I'm asking this. You can put it in the chat as well. How many clubs are planning to have EXCO meetings? No one. Two people. Very good. Only two. Wow. Three. Okay, I see the numbers are raising slowly. Now, I know all clubs should have Watana. It's true, all clubs should have. But let me say there are some clubs that don't. So let's talk about why. Now, secretaries, this is something important because it's related directly to you. Why do we have EXCO meetings? It's not just about finding out who has done what. That one we can use the phone. But the EXCO meeting is meant for us to find out if our systems in place are working, if we are able to follow through with our ultimate goal at the end. If our systems are at shambles, it's breaking up, we need to know. Whether it is a virtual meeting or a physical meeting after the 12th of July, we need to know how to move forward. And a WhatsApp group is not enough. There must be some verbal communication, whether virtually or physically. That is how we are able to move forward. And doing that, we need to know what is being said. Because what is being said today can be forgotten tomorrow. Goodness me, I can forget it 1 minute later, and I'll have to start asking people again. So the minute taker is so important. Your role, secretary, is to provide all the written knowledge that has been shared. And it is your role to ensure that every single person is aware of this within the EXCO as well as your club. Because club members will come up to you and ask, hey, why did you guys make this decision? And we need to be accountable. Are we accountable if it's all from the mind? If it's all mentally, I think the reason was, no, it's not. What is important is when we share, it comes from the strength of power. During this time, at this meeting, we discussed this and we agreed because. Now that is important. Okay, so remember, you are responsible not just for the records and correspondences. It's up to you to maintain the club roster as well. We need to know who is doing what at every single time. And it is your role as the scribe, and you can do it. Okay, so having that custody of the charter, the constitutions, the bylaws, all records needs to be kept by you. It is not a, sorry for my language, senang job. It's not. A lot of secretaries, from my past experience, have managed to kind of escape these things because they were not aware of where to get this information. Now, if your previous secretary does not have any of this information and you are not sure how to move forward with this, ask your area directors. If your area director does not know, they will check with the division council. And if, how unlikely if the division council doesn't know, we will check for you. All right. But trust me, we know. Go ahead, check with your area directors. What am I supposed to do? Who do I ask? How can I ensure that it's accurate? Who took part in a meeting 3 weeks ago? Who was the second speaker? These are things you're supposed to keep. Are your program sheets readily available? What is the purpose of all these things? See, if we do not have a record, we do not have a history. Every Toastmaster club has a history, has a culture, and we are the guardians of that culture. And we are the guardians to show the physical proof that we exist. While everyone's job is crucial, without you, there is no evidence. Without you, it's all hearsay. So the purpose of the secretary is crucial to the movement of the EXCO team, because without you, the EXCO will have no idea what to do next, because we are all working adults. We will forget. Whatever is remembered will be incidental. So making the effort to ensure that we are on the right track will have to come from the secretary's view. You will be asked, when did this happen? When did we agree? What did we agree? And we will need to ensure that it's done. So, are you afraid? Secretaries, no need to be afraid, secretary. How is it done? We start with the first step, which you have already done. Take a piece of paper, pencil, start writing. Draw a table. You will find that over time, your style will evolve. You will find that over time, your president will have more time to focus on taking care of you than working out the nitty-gritty with everyone. See, the purpose of the president, again, later I will share with you, is the best role for me personally. I will share with you why later. All right, secretaries, if you have any questions, later on during our discussion time, we will share, okay? We can discuss about that. So for now, let's talk about the next one. Our treasurer, the money god. Everything also have to ask you, because without you, got no money. Want to go for Zoom meeting also, if don't have you, that's it. We have to beg, borrow, and steal. You are responsible for club financial policies. It's not just the money holding. It's not just having an account. Financial policies, procedures, what kind of controls are you supposed to have? And then we start talking about collecting dues and paying dues, maintaining those records, who has paid. Now, if you have not paid, or if you are unsure, then you're not doing your job as the treasurer. To me, this job is money related. So it requires someone to be financially aware. If you are not financially prudent with yourself and you don't have any accounting skills, this is where you start picking up quickly, because when you are playing with other people's money, no matter how much of integrity we have, things happen. We don't realize where it's going or what's happening. So having those clear financial records, make sure your financial records or reports are given to the club at least, at the very least, every term. I'm sorry, when I say term, I mean every 3 months, every quarterly. So that not only your exco is aware, your members are aware where their money is going. Because don't forget, even though we may no longer have a venue, no longer have food, what we do have is the same amount being paid for our dues. And so our members have a right to know what is happening. Check your day-to-day accounts. Make sure it's up to date. If you have done some accounting over the few days, make sure you have updated it by the next day itself. Make sure there's some ledger, whether in a computer or in your book. If it's in a book, have a backup. If it's in your computer, definitely have another backup. The important thing is when you start sharing this, it becomes easier to explain what is happening to the money. Because when it comes to miscellaneous expenses, things can escalate without us realizing it. We as treasurers are not doormats. We do not allow money to go even if the president say can. We have to tell them whether can or not. Treasurer, in this sense, you have more power than the president because you decide clearly whether your club can afford to do what is necessary. Because the leaders, the presidents will have dreams. We are going to do this, we are going to do that. But if we are not able to sustain ourselves financially, if the impact is very negative on our bottom line of having day-to-day expenses for our clubs, we need to be the voice of reason. It is quite an unpopular thing to be the voice of reason, but there is a purpose to it. It is so that we function in a day-to-day basis and in the long term have a sustainable club. Now, once these expenses have been done, you need to ensure that it's verified. Do not be the only person who approves it. Make sure you have at least another person. Normally, it is the president, yeah, to do the verification and approval. I always suggest have your number 2 treasurer with you. Go through these things and together have separate books so that when we meet the president, you'll be able to ensure that both books are identical and there's no discrepancy. In this way, it is very clean. Now, I know it sounds very sticky, but if it's money, we know we have to be sticky. These are club members' funds being used for our club. So we need to ensure there is a whole lot of transparency when it comes to this. If it is not transparent, what happens is we will not be able to provide any proper support to our EXCO team. Our EXCO teams will have plans, which I'll come to, the VPPR, VPM, VPE, and President. They will have a lot of plans. They will discuss, but it will come to naught if we are not able to do the first 3 and keep ourselves in the black. Now, of course, you can check with your ADs, your area directors, what happens if we don't have enough? What can we do? There are many plans in place in which you can be supported to grow your funds ethically and cleanly. So ensure that when we are going through the treasurer's report, ensure that everything is up to date. The most it should take to update it is 1 day. Now, I know financial practices may tell you, 3 days is fine, but 1 day, because this is small money, but it is money nonetheless. So ensure that when we are doing this, we are very clear of what we are spending, where it's going, and how are we going to recoup if necessary. Any questions so far with regards to the treasurer? Yes, Terence mentioned you can appoint auditors like AIA, Toastmaster. Now, if you're a corporate organization, it's actually much easier in that sense. Yes, you're right. You can have auditors or you can have unofficial auditors. At Nisun East, we have a separate account with the CC. Honestly, we have a separate account with the CC because there is some things that works differently with the CC. So we're not able to get an auditor from the CC. However, we do have members who will double check on the accounts to ensure that everything is working well. Yeah, and a good practice, a system that will be in place will be good. Every 2 to 3 years, have someone come down, go through the finances, because not all of the treasurers are going to be money trained. Not all of us are financially trained. So get a mentor, learn basic bookkeeping skills if you are the treasurer. Remember, it is not just about keeping money in a bank account. It's not. It is being financially prudent, being ethically responsible for the club to function in the long term. We need to be sustainable. And for that, the funds are so important. Okay, Now let's move on. The next one, okay, you see my favorite VPPR there, all right? And Amelia was our VPPR. She is right now in Pasir Ris Elias. Now, why am I putting her here? Among all the VPPRs that I have worked with, Amelia is one of the best. So she is another resource you can go and ask. She is also one of our division club trainers, and she can be approached to conduct workshops for our division as well. Now, what is the role of the VPPR? Now, this VPPR is the fourth ranking officer. Now we start going slightly higher, okay? Now, we develop direct programs, okay, that inform different members and the public about Toastmasters. We are the face of how Toastmasters is going to be represented at our club level. It's about branding. We want to promote the Toastmaster brand and yet attract guests to visit our club. So how do we brand ourselves? This is where we differ club to club. A club that is corporate may brand itself differently from a club that is like mine, from the grassroots level, because our so-called clientele is different. We have different membership expectations. There's a different purpose as to why we join at the different groups. Now, how do we ensure that we are able to attract guests to the club? I think having that media exposure is something that is so important now. Maybe 10, 15 years ago, it was the idea of having a poster, a banner outside the CC, and putting our telephone number, and that was great. It worked. However, now we are becoming more and more of a global village, right? Members from different parts of Singapore are joining clubs. Members from different parts of the world are joining clubs in Singapore. Why? Because it's so easy to cross each other, to go to different clubs and visit, and we enjoy the ambience. Now, how does this provide support to the Exco team? You see, the leader of branding for your club has to come up with plans in which we can move as a club to showcase our identity and at the same time the values that the club wishes to bring forth in its group. Now, what are some of the some of the social media platforms that you use at your club right now? Put it in your chat. If your club doesn't believe in social media platforms, put it in as well. I see Insta, Facebook, electronic direct mailing, LinkedIn, email, Facebook. Now, for those of you who are not using, right, this is a good resource for you to find out what works for you. That's the Amazon. That's interesting. Ah, Gerald, okay. Not so interesting with Gerald. I was wondering for a moment. Okay, YouTube. Now, every club has your own unique style. But for those of you who are still new and still finding your way on what to use, utilize this. Find out what your demographic is. Who are the people you wish to attract to join the club? Which one fits best with the language? Which one fits best with the general ambience of your club? Because every club has a different dynamic group, and that dynamic group only works with certain groups. Yeah, so it's like having an introvert within an introverted group. I'm not saying we are introverts, but that is how it is. We specialize. Every club specializes in the groups that we have. And that is why after some time, you will notice even strong Toastmasters move from club to club, whether it's because the messaging of the club has changed or the Toastmaster themselves have evolved to a different kind of outlook on what they want from Toastmasters experience. And in this way, they look for a club that shares that same ideals. So our branding is very important. I highly encourage you to create your own personal branding when it comes to pushing your Toastmaster club. Do not use the generic, become a better speaker, because that can be any club. I repeat, don't choose a generic don't choose generic advertising. Choose something that is unique to your club. Give the whys, give the purpose of your club. How does it help? Because every club helps differently. If I wanted to improve my corporate structure, I would probably ask AIA for assistance, seeing as how they are an established group and they know how Toastmasters can help develop. If I wanted to go into the grassroots and find out, looking at the grassroots level, who are my demographic right now? It would be the neighborhood. It will be very different, vastly different from the group that is in the corporate. So how do we come up with that branding? These are things that your ADs and your division council can help you with. Now, if you have not asked your predecessor, go and have a chat with them. By now, you're supposed to have done that already. Yeah? Before you take over the role, you're supposed to understand what is the process. Because if you make a drastic change, it may change the language of the club as well. The branding changes. So do be aware of it. I won't say don't change it. I'll say do be aware of it as you move forward. Because you want to ensure that the next person has an easier job of retaining his members. So the next person, the VP of membership. Now, this is Mandy. For those of you who don't know, I used to love to stay in Shangri-La Sentosa. All right, and this is Mandy. I don't know whether Mandy remembers me, but I remember her. She takes care of guests like no one I knows how. She remembers me whenever she sees me, and I used to go there maybe like 2-3 times a year only with my family to stay. And she remembers me, and she remembers the things that my family members like. She remembers the things my kids like. And so whenever we go for a staycation, she takes care of us. And to her, it's part of her job because that's who she, or that's what she's supposed to do. But it is who she is and what she does for us as guests that keeps me going back. Well, pre-COVID anyway, that keeps me going back. You see, her job is to grow the guest membership. Our job as VPM is to grow our membership. It's not just about engaging people. It's how we engage that's important. Look at our club members right now. Are they the same members that they were when they first joined? Not just in terms of wanting to do pathways, but how have they evolved? Are the present circumstances that we have been using to encourage them to grow, are they relevant still? Because over here as VPM, we do not look as an entire group. We start looking at individual members. It's like when you're running a business, you are forced to run between looking at the nitty-gritty and then quickly flying back to the big picture, the big overview. And you have to constantly do that because you need to ensure that everyone is taken care of. Now, how often can we say that when the guest comes in, the VPPR has done her job, his job, and they've come in, they've sat down, and then we're asked, okay, the VP, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, sorry. So the VPPR has done his or her job and they've managed to come in, bring in some guests. Now, our role as VPM is to ensure that we do the conversion, right? Now you are guests. The next few times you come, I will convert you to a member. What is the language we use? How well do we know this guest? What are the systems we put in place to ensure that we're able to convert it at a high rate? Now, during my term as president of my club, I'll use my club as an example. We were the top 20 that year in terms of awards, and we managed to improve our membership by at least 18, I think, if I'm not mistaken, 16 to 18. I cannot remember the exact number. Now, how did we do it? You see, our VPM had a system. That was Leroy, if I'm not mistaken. We had a system. The moment a guest comes in, first system, number one, there's an identified member who sits next to the guest, who shares about the program, who shares about the meeting itself. Now, once that is done, it's break time. The guest goes to have the break. There's actually somebody else who will shadow the guest, who will have a conversation with the guest and talk about his experiences and what he's looking for. Once the break time is over, the guest goes back to sit down. And this is where we have our designated member to share with him again. How was the break? What are you looking for? And we collect as much information as we can so that when we send a package of information to the guest, it is customized for the guest to know how the guest will benefit. It is not just, nah, take the form, go. No, we don't do that. We want them to know that this benefits them like this, very specifically. And 3 days later, they get a personal message, a personal call from the club president himself, me. I'll make that call. I'll have a conversation. I will do the converting to support. And then what happens? And now the next day, the VPM will make an incidental call just to find out how things are. Now, it sounds very covert. It sounds very, not technical, but almost like an evil plan to do some weird conversion, but it's not. It's really about helping people find the right club for them. We even have a system in place. If that person is not a good fit for the club, you know, they have different expectations and different ideals. We even have a system to farm them to a club that matches them. It's not about growing just at the club. Our system is we want to have members enjoying themselves. We want to have members being able to develop themselves. And at Toastmasters, everyone can develop. But if you're a bad fit in your club, we need to help you find a better fit. And that is how reciprocity happens. Each and every one of us helps to sustain and support. That is why we have areas. That is why we have a division. We support each other. Our division supports clubs from all over the country. So what do? You come to us and say, this guy, he's looking for something else. I'm not able to find him a right club for him. Can you help us? And another club does that. And what happens? The division is able to support you better in your needs. So have that system in place. Ask yourself, what is step A to step Z of getting a member? What is step A to step Z of growing the current membership? Now, when we start doing that, everything becomes automatic. Do you know why? Because there are a lot of times we may not be able to attend a meeting, but because the system is in place, we don't have to worry about it. Things will move forward. It's just a matter of handing over the keys to the next person to do the support. In this case, you're number 2. Now, the next one, wow, the VPE. To me, the crown in the jewel. I apologize to all other Exco members. This is the person everyone needs to take good care of. Why? Because not only is she the mentor for the mentor program within our clubs, which there, by the way, there is a training that will be happening sometime in August regarding this. Now, not only is she the mentor for the mentor program, she has to be the anchor for the education programs as well. This is the number one person to ask for a slot when you want to speak, when you want to do evaluations, when you want to do anything. And they are very stressed. So VPE is here today. Remember, you are not alone. See, whenever we are in charge of a program, it does not mean that we must do it. I know it sounds like we're trying to sell off our job. It's not. Any leader will tell you, if I am to lead, I need people to work. And every leader will say this, get people to support you. They can be ordinary members to take charge of different aspects. It doesn't just have to be coming to you to tell you that you are going to do the program sheet. You are going to give us the slots. No. Work with members to work with identified members so that everyone will be able to have a system in place. Okay, I know that at my club, what happens is the program sheet is given to the WhatsApp group and people are asked to start filling. Now, whether it's effective or efficient, the club exco, you all decide. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, do something different. During my term, what we did was a lot of work was done by our VP and her team. They actively started going after people. In fact, my suggestion was, why not have a template to look at who needs to start doing some speaking, who needs to start doing some evaluation. How many have they done so far in the term, in the month, or in the quarter? And ask them and get them to produce something. Because the longer members take to start doing these things, the more challenging it becomes for them to take part in a meeting. Honestly speaking, when I didn't take part in a meeting due to work for about a month, going back to speak again was such a challenge. The pause fillers started coming back. Worst thing, the nerves started coming back. What more if you are not used to going regularly? And I try to have 100% attendance as much as I can. So making sure that we are able to support our VPE is so important because they not only have to fill it in, they got a schedule for all these chapter meetings as well. Guys, if you don't have a team, you die. I use the word DIE, really. We need to support each other. We need to ensure that when we are ready, we have a team that is ready to lead the rest. Save your VPE for the big picture things. Let your VPE have an overall look at how they can support each and every aspect of the club meeting in terms of education goals, in terms of the mentoring program. If you have an excellent mentoring program, you will not have to worry so much of your education programs or even the scheduling of the chapter meetings because everyone is running together with the same message. That scheduling is so important. Now, once you have that in place, it works. Yeah, so even though their role is to provide support to the EXCO team, you need to reciprocate as well. Ensure that we are all working together. Next, the king. This is the cheerleader's job. You know, many people will tell you the face of your club will be your president because they are the ones who has to speak at every single meeting. They are the ones who people come to or flock to find out what's happening with the meeting. Not only does the club president have to be aware of what's happening, they also need to ensure that everybody else is working well. They need to lead by example. They need to advise. They need to influence. They need to show clear direction. Now, Mr. President, Madam President, our role is so crucial because not only do we need to do this, we need to be a cheerleader for our EXCO members as well. Earlier on, I had mentioned, as leaders, what we need to do, we need to be able to go in and then come out and look at the big picture again. Go in and come out. When we go in, what happens is if we do not have the support, we start questioning ourselves whether we are moving in the right direction, whether we are able to bring the club to where we want to bring, because it is our vision that will bring the club forward. But our vision is useless, is pointless if we are unable to bring forward the happy mentality, the cohesive mentality of our Club EXCO. So I'm going to add one more thing that's not here. Be in constant touch with your EXCO members, not just to find out about club goals, but to find out how they are coping, whether they need help. We are the Florence Nightingales of the club. We need to ensure that everyone moves forward together. Okay? So that is for the club president. Ultimately, you can achieve all these goals once our systems are in place. Now, what's going to happen is we're going to have a breakout room soon, right? And there are certain things that you guys need to do. So let us discuss some things over there. First and foremost, you form a network. My friends, you're put in your respective roles for a reason. Form a network, support each other, discuss your roadmap. Try to start the beginnings of your system. What systems do you think you need in place for your role to do well? And next, share your potential pitfalls and good practices. I hope this has been useful. The next part will be even more useful the moment we start discussing. Your area directors are there. Let's go for it. Over to you, Tanika.